my great honor to finally welcome the one and only David Smalley to our stage. If you don't know David, he is the founder and host of Dogma Debate. Is anyone familiar with that here? Yeah, love you. Also is the CEO of Secular Media Group, had Atheist audiobooks, I think you sold that, right? Now is doing children's books. So he is a man of many skills and obviously all kinds of awesome new developments. So let's give a really great warm welcome to David Smalley.
How's everybody? Where's Sarah? That was awesome. I just want to tell you. Like, some people are loving it, some people are hating it, and I was like, I'm loving it. Makes it so much easier for me. Promise you. So good to be here. I've actually been here one other time, and when Rebecca Vitzman was here, that was awesome. It was a great time meeting her. And then we went back to Daryl's, and I learned a whole lot more about her that I did not know. She's super, super cool. So yeah, is the fourth listener here today? Come on. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Love you. There he is in the back too. Awesome. So yeah, my name is David Smalley. I'm the host of Dogma Debate Radio, and a lot of times I get, am I blocking the whole damn thing? That's ridiculous. How come nobody told me? You were just gonna let me set the laptop in front of the... That's great for you guys with the microphone thing here. This is awesome. All right. So a lot of times I get listeners, you know, they write in or call in, and a lot of time it has to do with parenting. And they'll say things like, you know, I want my kid to make up their own mind. And so it went from being like an email, you know, back to that one person to copy and pasting emails back to more people. And then ultimately, I was like, you know, I've got to give a talk on this because I think it's really, really important. One thing that's shocking to me is a lot of times secular parents or atheists in general don't want to talk to their kids about atheism in particular, that word, because they're afraid that they will indoctrinate their kids into atheism, right? They're like, I want my kid to be able to make their own decision. So it's so important that we're able to have these types of conversations, because today that's what I want to talk about, is indoctrination versus teaching critical thought, okay? Because I think there's a big line, there's a big distinction there. So I'm glad to be out here doing this, to talk about this. I think it's such an important topic. And also, by the way, I am from Texas. I came all the way from Dallas yesterday. I left Dallas yesterday afternoon. It was 173 degrees, and we didn't get to have a winter, so I appreciate you sharing your spring with us, because it's the coldest winter I've ever felt. It's awesome. So, as we're getting started, let's think about the word indoctrination. So many people, especially atheist parents, don't want to indoctrinate their kids into atheism, right? We don't want, because a lot of us were indoctrinated at one time, and we don't want that for our kids. So what does that mean? Well, the definition is to teach someone to fully accept the ideas, opinions, and beliefs of a particular group, and to not consider ideas, opinions, or other beliefs. So yeah, if you're telling your kids that if they are ever approached about God or Christianity, to scream out, there is no God, plug their fingers in their ears and run away screaming, call 911, you might be indoctrinating your kids. If not, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It was Aristotle who said it is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it. Imagine this concept. So many people, a lot of hardliner, a lot of more firebrand atheists will email me after a show where I've had a pastor on for 3 hours, and they'll go, you let him get away with so much. Why don't you just let him talk with his belief? I'm like, well, look, that's the point. I want to be able to hear his thought, hear his idea, and still not accept it, but I can entertain the idea. And I can say, you know, I understand why you feel that way, but here's why I disagree. It's important to keep that dialogue going. So teaching your children to entertain other ideas avoids the concept of indoctrination. So that's how you create a healthy balance as well for future social interactions. That's what we want them to do, because this isn't just about religion. We want to teach them how to think critically about all sorts of things. So as you're wondering about teaching your kids about atheism, right? How do I talk to my kids about it? Let's first think about what atheism is not. And this may shock a few people. Some people, I'll say a lot, some people disagree with this concept, but I just want you to entertain this even if you don't accept it. Let's talk about what atheism is not. It's not a way of life. Atheism is not a way of life. It's not where we get our morals from. A lot of pastors want to challenge me during debates and say, atheism can't provide X, Y, Z. We don't get our morality from atheism. It's not a religion. It's not a belief. A lot of people are thinking, damn it, David. By the way, when I see that in your email, that's exactly how I read it in my head. You're saying, damn it, David, isn't atheism a worldview based on humanist principles? Isn't atheism demanding evidence for the supernatural? Isn't atheism's whole purpose to teach critical thought? Isn't atheism rooted in evolution? Isn't atheism all about equality? No. No, it's not. The phrase, the sentence, I'm an atheist, is an answer to one question. It's a response to a single concept. Do you believe in a God? That's it. A worldview built on humanist principles? That's humanism. Demanding evidence for the supernatural? That's skepticism. Science rooted in evolution? There's a word for that. It's called biology. Teaching critical thought? That's just reason and logic. An ideology based on equality? We call that human rights. So teaching your children these basic principles of life is not indoctrinating atheism. It's the responsible thing to do as a parent, regardless of your religious affiliation. How many people here, growing up, by show of hands, heard the phrase, because I said so, as an answer? I don't recall seeing you folks in my house. Now to that same group, how many of you have also said that to your kids at some time or another? Slightly less hands, some of you are lying. That's cool. I wouldn't want to admit it either. I wouldn't want to admit it either. I understand. That's one thing that we hated as kids, because I said so, right? But then, sometimes you find yourself in a situation, even as a parent who wants to teach critical thought and who wants to encourage children to challenge authority, sometimes you find yourself in a situation where that slips out. Something like this. Hey, sweetie, get in the truck. We gotta go. You're in a hurry, there's a million things going on. But I thought Grandma was coming here. I need you to get in the truck. We have stuff going, we're going to Grandma's. But why would we get in the truck? Get in the truck. Get in the damn truck. Like, you know, there's a reason. You can explain it on the drive, but they just want to, that doesn't make any sense to me. Get in the truck because I said so. I understand, and I hate to admit it, I've had to say it sometimes. Now, every time I do, anytime I had to have said it, all along the drive, I'm like, okay, listen, I want to tell you why I didn't have time. So I've replaced the phrase with "because I said so" with "I'll explain later," right? Because then I want them to come back and say, "Hey, what was that all about?" Because I don't want us to tell our kids that it's not okay to question authority, right? Like if my daughter is, 14 years old and in high school and someone of authority tells her to do something that makes her uncomfortable, I want her to understand she has the right to say, I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't want to start off teaching our children this fallacy of appealing to authority, that because you're in a position of authority, you're always correct. At the same time, I don't want them to think it's okay to constantly disrespect authority. So we've got to find some balance, right? And it's really hard when you are that person of authority and you allow your children to question you. It's one of the hardest things we do as parents. But I think it's really, really important that we do. We just emphasize that they need to remain respectful while they're doing it. For example, my daughter just went, she's 11, her name is Talissa. She went to volunteer at an animal shelter. And this little girl thinks she already knows everything there is to know about puppies. And I knew what was going to happen. So I pulled her aside before she went in and I said, listen, she's really bad about going, oh, I know. No matter what you're telling her, I know. No, you didn't. I made that up. You didn't know that. Stop it. So I had to tell her, look, if you're asked for your opinion, you're asked for advice, offer your advice, but go there to learn today. It's your first day. I had to have that talk because I know what she's going to do. We allow her to challenge authority in a respectful way. But if everything they tell her to do, she's like, are you sure that's the best thing for this kind of puppy? Like, they're not going to have her back, right? So I had to have the talk with her. So when it comes to talking to your kids about religion, I want you to think about this analogy. There's a leprechaun, and a man comes across the leprechaun and says, caught you. According to the rules of catching a leprechaun, in case you didn't know this, the leprechaun has to show you where his gold is buried. Also, they cannot lie to you. So the man says, you have to take me to where your gold is. So this leprechaun walks him out into the middle of the forest, and he says, it's buried right under this tree. So the man takes out a blue ribbon, ties it around that tree, and says, you have to promise me not to remove the ribbon. I'm going to go get shovels. I'm coming back to take your gold. The leprechaun says, you have my word. I won't. The man leaves. And when he comes back with his shovels and all of his friends, there is a blue ribbon around every tree in the forest. The leprechaun kept his word. He didn't dismantle what was there. But he showed that all trees are very, very similar regardless of your preference. And that's the approach I take when it comes to religion with my kids. It was Dr. David Eller in his wonderful book, Atheism Advanced. If you haven't read that, I strongly recommend it. It was from 2007, but it was a big turning point for me in my activism. It actually sparked me writing my first book, Baptized Atheist. It's Atheism Advanced. It's on Amazon, and American Atheist has it as well. He says in there, the best argument against any religion is any other religion. So we can take that to just say, look, whenever we have story time with our kids, let's talk about the myths, and let's have fun with it. Let's talk about Thor, and Zeus, and Demeter, and Jesus, and Horus, and Krishna, and let's be open with our kids about all of these things and the myths that they are. We also released a book called The Belief Book by David McAfee. It's a 30-minute audiobook which teaches kids about belief, about how beliefs are important. If you're up in a tree, the belief that if you fall you might get hurt could be healthy for you. This could be a good thing. We like to teach about the history of the holidays. The word holiday itself comes from holy day. So saying happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas isn't necessarily really sticking it to the man. I mean, I say happy holidays, and if someone says Merry Christmas, I'll say Merry Christmas. I'm not caught up on that, but I want the kids to understand what they're saying. So anytime there is a holiday, we sit down and talk about it. We talk about Easter, but we don't tell, what I'll tell my daughter is what the Christians think Easter means, and then I tell her the history of the Greek goddess and Esther and all the wonderful things about that story and about there's so much confusion. Why are we looking for eggs and a rabbit for Jesus? Doesn't make any damn sense to me. Well, my kids know about the fertility and all these other things. So we use these as opportunities to teach as well. They get surprised when they find out where the word Saturday came from, where the word Thursday came from. We can't act like religion doesn't have a massive influence in our culture, our society. It absolutely does. So teaching our kids about that and arming them with information is one of the most powerful things we can do. And if you're shielding them from all of this information, that may be indoctrination, and we want to stay away from that. So what we want to do is teach them about our culture, about our society, and the effects religion has had on it. Because I want them to be able to make informed decisions, right? I mean, when we really think about it, we love our kids, we love spending time with our kids, but what's our number one goal as parents? It's really to teach them how to live without us. right? I don't believe there's a heaven I'm going to. The thing that I'm looking for, honestly, it's a little morbid, but that makes me okay with dying someday is that my kids are going to be productive citizens and they're going to be able to live without me. No one is going to be stuck out if I'm gone. That's what I want to do. So I want to give them as much ammunition as I can, and critical thought is just the best ammunition you can provide your kids. Because it's going to help them in multiple different facets of life. Also, kids will deal with things a lot differently, especially teenagers. My son is almost 17, and he was seeing this girl. They were texting back and forth and dating. We got on a couple of dates, and then he gets the dreaded third date request. Hey, why don't you come to church with me? And he's washing the dishes, and so he dries off his pinky so he can hit the microphone button. And he leans over and goes, I'm good, fam. I'm good, fam. I would have been like, we need to talk. Listen, there's something wrong with me. I'm an atheist, right? You feel like you have to somehow come out to this person and have this big talk. And it's like, I'm good, fam. That was his response. And his phone started making this weird noise that he never hears. It was ringing. You see teenagers do that? Their phone rings, they look at it like it's broken. Like, what is she doing? That's a lot of messages. Like, she wants to talk to you. We're talking right now. No, she wants to really talk to you. And so he answers the phone, and I hear him go, I just don't believe in that stuff. What? What do you mean? Well, I think it's weird that you do believe it. Well, have you heard of anyone else dying and coming back to life? So why do you think it happened 2,000 years ago? Yeah, me either. Okay, see you tomorrow. I'm in the living room like, she's gonna talk to you again? It's not that big of a deal. It's this nonchalant approach. Sometimes I'll hear him on his PlayStation. Of course, that's where you go to find out exactly who has all had sex with your mother. You put the headset on. Sometimes I listen. It's unbelievable. I had no idea Brandy was so active. But they throw a lot of insults around on the PlayStation, and they will say horrible things to him. And then someone will throw out the word faggot. And he'll go, excuse me, I support gay people, sir. Every time. And it's to the point now that anytime someone will go, oh, that is so gay. Sorry, man, sorry. His tag name is a Big White Biscuit on PlayStation. And they'll go, sorry, biscuit. So, the fact that my kids are having those types of conversations with their friends it's rewarding for me to hear those types of conversations. He's not afraid to stand up for what he believes is right. He's not afraid to ask some questions, employ that Socratic method, explain why he maybe doesn't want to have the conversation. Ask them certain questions like my son did with that girl, why do you think it happened 2,000 years ago? Basic questions that's not really going to offend them, but make them think. It was E.M. Forster who said, how can I tell what I think till I see what I say? A lot of times, the first time they've ever thought about it is when you ask them the question. And in their process of trying to formulate an answer to you, they have to process it for the first time ever. So rather than teaching the kids to be argumentative or disrespectful, teaching them to ask questions is really like a non-attacking sort of way to engage the conversation. A couple of ideas of questions, just real quick, I'll go through a couple, would be, if your religion was wrong about something, would you want to know? That's an important one, because sometimes, like my mom, no, I wouldn't want to know that. That's very telling about where they are. How do you know for sure that your religion is the right one? This one's really powerful, especially when someone older in the family, a grandma or an aunt or uncle, comes to the child and starts trying to pressure them to believe. This is a really good one for the kids to use on older adults in the family that you respect. Something like, would you want me to lie and say I believe when I really don't? Because what that does is it puts integrity just a little bit above belief. And it makes you say, look, don't you want me to be realistic? Don't you want me to be honest? Because then that person has to make a decision and say, no, I would rather you lie to me and make me feel better about myself as a grandmother, frankly. So it's really important to arm your kids with some of that information. Teaching them to explain humanism, not to defend it necessarily, but to just explain what it is. And you know, my daughter does this really cool thing when she meets a kid who she really, really likes, who she knows is a Christian. She doesn't immediately tell them she's a non-believer. She'll start saying, my dad hosts this radio show. And inevitably, oh, cool. How do I listen? Or what do they talk about? And she'll say, oh, they talk about religion a lot. My dad's an atheist, and he has friends that are Christians, and they talk about how they disagree on stuff. So it's really cool, you know, how you can be a Christian or atheist, but everybody can still get along. And it's this really sweet way because she's about to drop the bomb on them. And she's just paving the way ahead of time that you don't have to hate me because we disagree. I think it's just really sweet. Teaching them to explain, you know, people helping people and that people are more important than beliefs. Love that shirt. And it's also okay to pretend with your kids. There's a lot of debate going on in the secular community. Do we do Santa Claus? Do we not? Do we do the tooth fairy thing? Do we not? I've never said the words, there is no such thing as a tooth fairy in my house. What I'll do is I'll say, tooth fairy only comes on Fridays. And there's this fun, magical thing where, you know, Talissa's like, come on, Dad, seriously. But there's something magical about putting a tooth under your pillow and waking up to mummy, you know? I've tried it, it doesn't work for me. There's something really cool about it, and so I don't want to, you do what you want in that, but for me, I've never taught them that it was real, and I've never told them it wasn't, but we all pretend together, and still to this day, she's never heard me say there's no such thing as a tooth fairy. And so she'll come out and be like, thanks, Dad. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's just fun. It's just fun. And she's like, I'm 11. Like, seriously? I don't know. And also kids, especially teenagers, have embraced technology. They're so good with it. I don't want to fight that. I don't want to fight their technology. I want to embrace that technology. There are so many apps that are good for critical thinking, that are good for riddles, brain games. There's one called Left versus Right. There's one called Elevate. Left versus Right. Anybody played that game before? Left versus Right? Anybody? Nobody in here? Oh man. What's that? For those of you that didn't hear her, she said, isn't that called Tinder? There's your second wave of laughter. You deserve it. No, Left versus Right, it'll have, on the left side, it'll have the word yellow, and it'll have a bunch of colors, and it'll be the word yellow written in green. And you'll have to match it with the word orange written in the color yellow. And you have to, you're on a timer, and you have to do this thing by, it's really cool. Elevate, Can You Escape? That's good for kids who have to go to church. Fit Brains, Mind Games. And ask your kids questions you don't know the answers to. I'm about to close up here, but I want you to leave here being okay with being vulnerable in front of your kids. Don't be afraid to tell your kids, I'm sorry. So many times, we feel like we want to have this, we want our kids to look at us as perfect. We've got it all figured out. We're the leader. We're awesome. They know better. They know better. And if they don't yet, they will find out very, very soon. And so, it's so cool to be able to show them the human side of being a parent. Because we ultimately want them to make good decisions on their own, right? We want to teach them how to live without us. So don't be afraid to ask your kids questions you don't know the answers to. They're really Tell them when you don't understand something. Because what you're doing, you think at first, I'm showing weakness for my kids. What you're doing is you're teaching them how to also be humble. You're teaching them how to say, I don't know. You're teaching them how to make progress and grow. Ask for their help with solving problems. Try their ideas even when you're certain of their failure. Just try their ideas, entertain them. Read with your kids. Learn with your kids. We have some books that we brought today. I'm so proud that we just did this. Helen mentioned in the opening that we did Charlie and the Tortoise. Yeah, she's got one right here. It's about a little boy named Charlie who went on a trip to the Galapagos Islands and started noticing some differences and similarities between finches. And goes back and does research and comes to find out all of us are connected, every boy and every girl, and it's this really wonderful story. And Charlie and the Tortoise, because Charlie runs into a tortoise on the island who's really, really old and who has seen some of these changes. And so him and the tortoise begin to talk about all the changes and how animals are connected. It's a really beautiful story written by M.J. Mouton. He's the founder of Kids Aren't Kids. And we're honored to have published that book. You can't buy it online right now. It's sold out within, I think, 6 days of being on Amazon. It's back in print, but it's going to be out for like 60 days. The only copies that are available are the ones right back there if you guys want to pick up a copy of that. And I think Brandy went back there earlier and read the book to the kids. It's so important. Every adult I've talked to who sat down to read that book has learned something about Charles Darwin in that book. And there are facts about grown-up Charlie in the end. Ultimately, we don't make children atheists. We really don't. They just kind of start out that way and we don't give them invisible things to be afraid of. You don't have to label your kids as atheists. Teach them how to defend themselves with questions. Teach them how to research. Teach them science. Teach them critical thought. Teach them humanism. And let them label themselves. Thank you very much. She said if you have questions, go ahead, I'll translate. Okay. A lot of people here don't speak Helen.
Language part? Oh, there we go. I know you guys want to hear my voice. So, if you have questions, wait for me to come to the mic. We'll take a few questions here, and and please ask a question. Keep it a sentence or two short. No one?
Nobody?
Wow, you just solved everyone else just kidding.
Oh, so close. What was the title of the book I mentioned? The children's book? Oh, it was Atheism Advanced by Dr. David Eller from 2007.
That's what you do.
A rap battle with me? I'll take you up on that, man.
Question is, your information, how do we get your information?
Yeah. We've got some cards right there in the back at the dogma debate table. Yep.
There
was someone up here too.
It's okay.
Just yell. We have a few questions up there.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I want to know what your opinion is. My son is 7 and he has a friend who's continuously inviting him to go to a Oasis with him. And he says he wants to go because he's an expert on all gods and he's talking about Norse gods and Greek gods. And I'm afraid to let him go because as far right there, we have parents might be interested. What's your thought?
Can I go? That sounds awesome. So what did you say it was called again? Awanas? Of Bible Camp for Kids. Oh, crap. Boy Scouts. Yeah, I didn't know. I've never heard of Awanas. So who was saying that they're an expert on it?
My 7-year-old.
Your 7-year-old is the expert on Norse gods. You know, how long is the Bible game?
It's just like evening by evening.
Like a one night thing? You know, 7 is a really scary age. I mean, I don't know it. My daughter, she did go to church, I think once with a friend when she was 7 or 8, and I had the same concerns. I mean, there are no exact answers to that. It comes down to, I think I would probably let him go and then sit down with him immediately after and ask questions. I would. The scary part is, at that age, you never know. You never know what he's going to be told, right? If the kid is told something along the lines of, the Bible is the Word of God, this is the truth, and Satan will creep into the minds of your parents and force them to lie to you, disarming you completely, right? So if your son is resilient to that and to call BS on that and go, yeah, right, dude, maybe he's ready for that. If you don't know how he would respond to something like that, I would hold off a little. For my daughter, she pretty early on, she was ready to fight. Like, she wanted to argue immediately. My son wasn't so much. My son, still around like 13 or 14, would come in after seeing a preview and be like, I just saw this thing about white noise and ESP and I think ghosts are real. I'm like, we need to talk, you know? She was ready, honestly, she was ready probably at 7 or 8, and he was ready yesterday, I think. But he's a great kid. But you just have to gauge the resiliency of that kid, honestly. That's what I would say. Because I would hate for my kid to come home and everything that I say about the Bible, they're going, is that Satan talking? You know, that's what you really worry about, that level of brainwashing. But them being exposed to the Bible or them being exposed to Christianity, absolutely nothing wrong with that in my opinion. I welcome it, I open it, and you know what? A lot of times, their friends end up coming over, and we'll start dialogue with her, and they start asking me questions. And I'm thinking, okay, what do I do, right? Do I talk to this 11-year-old girl down the street about Jesus? You know? And so the first time, as a matter of fact, the first time it happened, I think they were 10, and this little girl runs into the bedroom, or runs into the living room from my daughter's bedroom. She goes, David, your daughter is saying that in the Bible it says to kill gay people. Will you please tell her she's wrong? You should probably talk to your daddy about that. She's like, I'm going to show her where it's wrong. I'm going to show her. There's no way it says that. And I'm like, you can't show her what's not in the Bible. It doesn't work that way. And she's like, well, and Talissa's standing behind her going, come on, Dad! And I finally just went, okay, come here, let me show you. And I flipped it open to Leviticus 20:13, and I was like, I'm just going to leave that right there. Right there. And she reads and she's like, oh my God, she's 10. And I'm like, I don't want her to lose all her friends, you know? But if her daughter, if this girl is making this claim that it's not in there, and I have the ability to say, actually, it kind of is, and the older they get, the more I'll talk to them. My son Braden has had teenage girls come over, 3 or 4 at a time, come over to convert me. It's cute. He's like, yeah, that's what they're here for, Dad. No, they were concerned about my soul. And he's talking to them like, it's really no big deal. She's like, well, I want to talk to your dad. He's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And they were like, we want to talk to your dad. So they came over and we had a really good talk. Really good talk. I think only one of them is still a Christian today. Yeah, and then even then she's like more socially, converted. But I welcome the conversation. The older the kids get, the more I'm open to talking to them about it. And I'm fine with it personally if my kids go to other people's houses and they talk to them about Jesus. Especially now that they're age, 11 and 16, I'm fine with it at this point. Our neighbor is extremely religious, and she actually said she's concerned about our daughter not having exposure to Christianity. And I said, anytime you want to come over and talk to us about it, you are more than welcome. And they've asked one time if she could go to church, and my response was, yes, but she might ask questions. And I just want you to know that. And she said, never mind. I'm still up for it. I'm like, here, Talissa, take this. If you could record it, that'd be great for the podcast. It's fantastic.
Any others? Take one.
Anybody else? Oh, yeah, wait, more now.
Center, sorry. I don't like the word.
So my daughter is 6, and I think what I worry most about her is going to school and kids making fun of her. I don't think the subject has come up very often. She hasn't talked about it. But I wondered how you handle scenarios where maybe teachers or administrators have known about your family's beliefs and you had any problems. I don't know. Just worry about her.
Yeah. So the question was, do you worry about your kids at school being made fun of, being challenged, especially by administrators or teachers or other children too as well? You're worried about that? Yeah, we actually just answered a question on the show. I think you said you were halfway through the last episode. I think near the end of the last show we did, we read an email very similar to that from a listener named Casey, and we answered that question. But I'll tell you that, yes, it happens. My daughter again, this is Talissa, she came home one day and was like, Dad, do you have some business cards? I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, well, the school resource officer was telling me about God. And I was telling her that I don't believe, and that she should really check out your show. Because the stuff she was saying, I know doesn't make sense. So can I just give her your card? I really don't want to argue with a police officer. So I gave her some business cards, and now we have a cop listener. But yeah, that's happened. A lot of times teachers will go out of their way to make little comments. So I go back to the resiliency. There was one teacher who knew that we were non-believers and said, on Friday, you have homework this weekend, class. It's math homework. You need to calculate how long it takes you to get to church. Okay. Well, 0 for my daughter. Right? And so that's, you will face that. But I'm telling you, going through those things with your kids, going up there and defending your kids. I don't know if you guys know this or not. If teachers or representatives or counselors in the school anywhere in the nation have religious materials on the walls or displayed facing students, it's declared unconstitutional. There are precedents set. Freedom from Religion Foundation can help you, and you can let them know that they're not supposed to do that. There's the counselor at the school that she just left has maybe a 2-foot cross hanging on his wall. We have to go in there and say that's unconstitutional. You can't. What if there is a student who is Muslim, who is being picked on by Christian students, and he comes into your office to talk about it, and sees right off the bat, you're on their side? You can't do that. This isn't your area. This is our area that you work in. We let you work as a public servant here. This isn't your personal space. Take that cross to your home, right? And that's what the courts have said. So you have legal standing. You have the right to fight those types of things. But I'm telling you, kids will pick on non-believer kids. And it's a part of what we deal with. It is. So teaching your kid some of these Socratic method of asking questions is a really good way to diffuse a situation. One time, Talissa came home and told me that a girl was walking by and saw her sitting next to one of her friends. And the girl walked by and said to her friend, you shouldn't sit next to her, she's an atheist. That's the kind of stuff you're talking about. I think Talissa was in 2nd or 3rd grade. And I said, what did you say? I said, she's been sitting next to me all year and nothing bad happened so far. Like, where's your evidence, bitch? Hello? And that was a great response, but not all kids are going to respond that way, right? Some kids are going to cry and be like, she's right, I'm broken, And we don't want that. We don't want our kids to feel that way. So you have to make the decision based on your child's resiliency to be able to deal with that kind of stuff. And make sure that they're armed with questions to ask. It will happen, but you do have the right. Just know you're always in the right to defend your kid from that type of bullying. And regardless of the religious beliefs of the principal or the administrative staff, they legally have to defend you. They have to. And if they don't, not just my show, but several other activists, Freedom from Religion Foundation, American Atheists, they will help you. You're not alone in this, I promise you. So I would encourage your child to speak up, politely say that they don't believe, try to avoid confrontation if possible, but we don't want to teach children to be ashamed of their humanism, ever. I don't want to tell her, don't tell anybody this because they won't like you, ever, 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 ever. I want my kids to be proud of who they are, even if it causes a little discomfort. Any more questions? One more. It's all right, I can hear you.
So, I talk about religious people who I work with, whatever, I'll speak to them about, one day I talk about with indoctrination. And, your guys' response, as you talk about critical thinking, right? So, as parents, a big part of what we do is we use the culmination of all our life experiences in critical thinking we've had in our childhood relations to pass that on our kids so they don't have to, running in the street by the car,
Sure.
and so forth, right? So, like, if I think respect or, whatever, or something, what I think is correct in the world, and I treat people and interact with people is right. Like, why wouldn't I pass it on my kids? If religion is or isn't part of that. And I think, for me, it kind of, like, I think it got a point to me, it's like, trying to teach our kids that we need to show us the whole story, like that. My life, I believe this is correct, and why not pass it on?
I'm so glad you asked that. I'm so glad you said that, because something very important that I wanted to leave you with that I actually forgot to say, and probably one of the most important things, is, and back to your question as well about how much do we tell our kids about this, because we don't want them to be treated differently. At the end of the day, we're supposed to pass down the best knowledge we have to our kids. That's it, right? We make mistakes, and then we turn to our kids and say, hey, don't do this type of stuff. I've already learned from it. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't, right? But that's our job, is to hand down the best information we have for the world. So I don't want anyone to ever be ashamed to talk about atheism with your kids. You didn't get that impression, did you, that I said? Yeah, okay, no. I don't ever want anyone to be ashamed to talk about it. My whole point is, you don't have to really, because you talk about humanism, you talk about science, you talk about critical thought, and that's what we're supposed to do. And at the same time, as much as we look at Christians who start off at 3 years old having their children color pictures of dinosaurs on the ark, and we go, gosh, that's really anti-scientific. You take a step back and go, they think they're doing the same thing. They feel like they are passing down the best knowledge to their kids. They're not intentionally, at least most of them, are intentionally lying to the kids and making them believe something that's not true. They think they're doing the same thing, so why shouldn't we be able to do that too, right? It is our duty, not just what we want to do, it is our duty as parents to pass down the best information we have in this world. And if that means to us, there is no God out there taking care of us, so we've got to take care of each other, none of us should be ashamed to say that to our kids. That is our job. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you all so much for coming out.